Alrighty, welcome back, boys and girls. It's your main math man, Shane, coming to you live from second block this time. And in this video, what you're going to be working on is that modeling those two-step equations. So you want to make sure that you can see the key as always. If you want to use the green tiles and red tiles, yellow and red, you certainly can. To keep it simple for yourself, though, you want to make sure you can use the key given. So for example, just like we had in the other video when we were doing expressions, we're saying that each side of an equation is an expression. So you have an expression on the left, and you have an expression on the right. Expression. All this is saying is two equal expressions make an equation. Okay. So what you're going to do is this. You're going to just draw it out like you normally have. So on the left side of the equation, I have two positive x's, and then I have three positive ones. So I have 1, 2, 3. All on the left side. Again, it doesn't have to be perfectly drawn, but make sure you do give yourself enough space. On the left side, or excuse me, on the right side now, we have 7, negative 1. So I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Again, please just make sure that you're showing the difference between those two. Again, our x's are those rectangles, and the 1s are the squares. So now, just like we did with one-step equations, we're going to always do the inverse operation. So how do we get these x's by itself? Well, we have to add the opposite. So we're going to add 3 negatives to both sides. Because whatever I do to one side, that's right, I have to do it to the other. So 3 negatives to both sides. Now that I added the opposites, I can say, okay, what is this going to look like? Well, I have a 0 pair here, 0 pair here, 0 pair here. So now what am I left with? I have 2x equals, and then I have 10 negatives. So how am I going to split this into these groups? Well, if you want to, you can say, all right, let me move these over a little bit so that way we have it, so I can kind of group these a little bit better. So I'm going to say, all right, I need to split these 10 negatives into two groups because I'm looking for 1x equals a number. So let's see, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what I can do is I can actually split these into two groups of 5. So I'd have 5 negatives equals 1x. So you would write, very simply, x equals negative 5. I will show the normal steps, how we do very shortly using those railroad tracks. So let me do one more example on the front here. So it has same idea. It's going to be a little bit more difficult to show because we have a negative x, but that's okay. We can still use that same idea. So I'm gonna have 3 negative x's. So I have 3 negative x's. Let me move this down a little bit. Went too far. So 1, 2, 3. And still on that same side of the equal sign, I have 9 positives. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right. So now, on the right side, we have 3 negatives. 1, 2, 3. Be sure to add the opposite. Again, you're trying to do the inverse operation. I want to add the opposite, so I need to now add 9 opposites, or excuse me, 9 negatives. So if I do that, let's see what happens. Well, I would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Whatever I do to one side, got to do to the other. So what I can do is I can kind of draw them. If you want, you can draw them right next to each other, cancel them out. That way you can make those 0 pairs right away. Again, if you don't like drawing the picture, that is okay. I just want to make sure we have these building blocks to solving equations. So as you cancel those out, all you should be left with is 3 negative x's and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 negative 1s. So how do we split 12 negative 1s into 3 groups? We would divide. Very good. So we would divide it into 3 equal groups. It's okay. It takes a little bit of practice. So how much would each group be? So if I'm saying one of these is going to be 4 of the negatives. So this is what I'm saying, and I can write it below here. I'm saying a negative 1x is equal to a negative 4. So for every negative 1x, I have 4 negatives. But we're looking for what? We're looking to find out what would one positive x be. What do you guys think? If it's raining outside and you wear a jacket, a raincoat on Tuesday, on Wednesday it rains again, are you going to wear a jacket? Yeah. On Thursday it doesn't rain, are you going to wear a jacket? No. Okay. So using that same idea, if I say negative x equals negative 4, what do you think positive x equal? Boom, positive 4. Again, all we did was we grouped it to get it by itself, and we said, hey, I know the opposite of this is a positive x. The opposite of a negative 4 is a positive 4. Everybody okay so far? I promise it's super simple, but just building blocks. So now I want to, I'm going to skip to, let's actually model one more time. I'm going to show 12 positives. I can kind of draw this a little bit quicker. Kind of getting the hang of it. And then we have 4 positive x's. Again, we're still using that same key on the front, so if you need to draw it for yourself in the back, you certainly can. So that on the left side of my equal sign is this expression, positive 12 plus 4x. On the right side of my equal sign, I have 8 negatives. So let me actually do this here. So I have, let's see, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. So again, just like we were doing, what do you guys think we're going to do here? Very good. We're going to add the opposite to both sides because we're trying to get these x's by themselves. So I'm going to add 12 negatives. Again, if you want to use those counters to cancel out, you certainly can. So one positive, 1 negative, cancel out. 1 positive, 1 negative, cancels out. 1 positive, 1 negative, 1 positive, 1 negative. If it starts to get a little crowded, that's okay. Again, all I'm doing is I'm adding 12 negatives to both sides. Just give me 1 second here. So I have 0 pairs, 0 pairs. Make sure that you can subscribe to my channel, Shanks Domain. as always. Okay, so 12 negatives on the left. I know that's a lot going on. 12 negatives on the right. And what I can do here is a key part. Instead of having to kind of get sloppy, what I can do is I can give 12 of those one by one. So I'm doing, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I know, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The reason why I'm doing that is because it's going to be a lot easier to group these together. So let's see. How much does one of these x's equal? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have 5 negatives. That means that 4x equals negative 20, or we could say 1x equals negative 5. If you're able to make equal groups, that's hey, that's what we're trying to do. So now, again, this is just the picture. So all we're trying to do is kind of build up to what you're used to doing. Because I know in previous years you've done it without the picture. So how would you guys normally solve this? Well, same idea. We can draw those railroad tracks. We're just trying to split our equation into 2 equal expressions. So we're saying, okay, on the left side I have negative 5 minus x, and on the right side I have negative 6. So I'm trying to get that x by itself. Excuse me. So we have this. I'm going to add the opposite to both sides. So we're going to have plus 5 to both sides. Because what happens? Well, these cancel out on the left. These cancel out on the left. On the right, what do we have? Well, we have negative 1. Very good. Everything else comes down, so this negative x comes down. So now, what do you guys think we need to do? If we say negative x equals a negative 1, what do you think a positive x would equal? A positive 1. You always want to divide by that coefficient. That means you want to divide by what is attached to that x. So we're saying divide both sides by negative 1, and we say x equals a positive 1. It will become a lot more clear after this next problem. So again, you guys are used to the railroad tracks, the river, whatever you want to call it. I call them training wheels until you are able to do it perfectly. So again, let's have those training wheels. What do you guys think? Is that a positive or a negative 7? All right, so mark it for yourself if you need to. You're saying, hey, that's a positive. We need to do the opposite. So what's the opposite of a positive 7? All right, sure. So we have a negative 7. Whatever you do to one side, do the other. Hello, Shane. Good? Yes. Roger that. You're welcome. Again, you always want to add the opposite, so that way you get the x by itself. So you have on the right side 8 negatives and 7 negatives. That equals 15 negatives. On the left side, we have our 0 pairs, so these cancel out. Everything else comes down, so this positive 3x comes down. So our current equation is just 3x equals negative 15. What would you guys like to divide by? Because you always want to divide by the coefficient. So you want to divide both sides by 3. So we'd say x equals negative 5. And any questions so far? Is it starting to come back to people, hopefully? All right, I'm going to do these last two. So let's do this. Training wheels. Let's find out how can I get these x's by itself. Is that a positive 2 or is that a negative 2? What do you think? Positive 2. So we have to do the opposite. So we subtract 2 from both sides. Please make sure that you're very careful. Again, a lot of people will try to subtract from the x. Please do not do that. Again, you're just trying to get the ones all on one side and the x's all on the other side. So again, the 2's cancel out. So we have 2x on the right. On the left, yes, we have 6. So we say 6 equals 2x or 2x equals 6. What can we divide both sides by? 2. Divide both sides by 2, since that's our coefficient. This is 1x, and on the left side we have 3. So we'd say x equals 3. Always want to circle your answer, that way it's clear to see. Un más. One more. Training wheels. Add 14 to both sides. Relax, dude. Cancel out. This comes down, so we have 5x on the right. On the left, we have 20. Just like the one before, divide both sides by 5. And so we can say x equals 4.